Apologies, my dear. Pick it up. Whoopsie daisy!
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Day-Lewis. That was...
It's okay if I take my jacket?
Of course. I'll take it. I'll just
Warm in
feel
here.
right at home. These girls will make you sweat in any case. I got
Your mic shows.
Your mic shows, it doesn't matter.
I'm still standing up, by the way.
You are?
Yes. Just.
Listen, that was, I think, that was your last film before this latest film, wasn't it? Gangs of New York? 4 years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
but why this latest film, The Ballad of Jack and Rose, which is written and directed by your wife? Maybe that's the reason.
Well, that has something to do with it. She certainly had a captive audience, anyhow. She came close to making the film a couple of times with other people in place, and I was always hoping she would get to make that film, but after we were married, it never really occurred to me that we would do it together.
Tell me about Jack, the character, because he's on the surface a very charming man, but actually he's not, is he? I mean, he's a...
I mean, he was an idealist, a utopian.
So you described him as a bit of a shit.
Well, you could call him that as well.
That's right.
He was a utopian and a bit of a shit.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he lived in this commune, which dissipated, and we find him living in this commune now, in the state of general disrepair, with his daughter, who's 16, who is protected against the outside world, and she's part of a utopian ideal. And it's that story about their relationship. It's fathers and daughters again.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very strong story with an incestuous kind of hint about it as well, because he feels he's falling in love with them and brings into their lives his girlfriend and their family. And from that point on, it all changes for him.
I'm so glad you described it like that, because I couldn't have done that, but that's perfect.
Well, now let's pick up, because there is the subplot to all this is that within your perfect idyll, there's one flaw that a developer started building on a wetland, and you're opposed to that. He's played by Beau Bridges, and this is a sequence where he comes to see you, and you tell him what for.
Well, here's the thing. You're slinging up houses on a wetland, right? I just want you to take down one of them. Pick a house. I'll leave it up to you.
Of course, that's out of the question.
See you, Marty. If you don't destroy one of those houses, I'm gonna have to kill you.
I hope you're kidding. For your sake.
I have to say in my own defense, I'm not always threatening people. Not always.
You once said, too, discussing your career, you said that the English media generally regarded you as being balmy. And that was a reference to the well-reported incident in, was it 89, when you played Hamlet?
Yes.
And your father, of course, was a famous man, Cecil Day-Lewis, and a poet laureate. What kind of relationship did you have with him? Was it a distant relationship, or...?
Very affectionate, but he was a very affectionate man, but he was a man from a different time.
Well, you were saying this is what Jane was
yes,
saying.
probably they'd have understood each other quite well, and added to which his work really fermented and took place entirely in his mind. Therefore, that in itself was probably created a certain distance, but he was a tremendously charming man.
And casts a long shadow on your life, still.
Well, so they say.
Well, then...
So they say.
I think it's so interesting that you fell in love with and married a woman whose father was also a literary giant.
This is Arthur Miller, of
yeah,
course.
it's beautiful, I think. There's
They're
a symmetry
very different
about it.
creatures, the two of my dad.
Your dad and her dad?
Well, maybe I could have grown into the sort of friendship that I had with Arthur. Arthur was a guy you just wanted to sit at a table with and listen to, occasionally speak, maybe, but just listen to.
Well, maybe your wife would have wanted to sit with your dad and just listen to him. I mean, it's hard to want to do that with your parents, right?
Yes, yes.
But what's interesting, of course, with that father relationship and why we talked to, why I raised this subject, was this incident when you were playing Hamlet. You were 8 months into it.
The incident.
The incident. Well, it's fascinating, actually. And you walked off the stage because at one point you were having a dialogue with your dead father, you believe. Or you were.
So they say.
Well, were you or were you not?
I honestly can't remember. It's a long time ago. Maybe I was under the impression I was, but then I was under the... You know, no matter to what extent you create for yourself the illusion or the delusion that you are traveling this great distance towards another life that isn't yours, of course, you remain at the very center yourself, otherwise you can't do the work. But that's the trick that you play with yourself. So, in that particular play, it was vital for me that I explored those themes through my own experiences. So at the outset, when you're full of vim and everyone's like a greyhound in the slips waiting to get on with this job, we're all fascinated by it. We unleash this curiosity, which seems controllable. But of course, the themes of the play are weighty things to live with, and I lived with that play for 8 months. And very happily, I remember it as a thoroughly good and fascinating experience. But it took its toll, I suppose, not so much performing it, but living with the play. And at a certain point in time, that dialogue that one has with a father figure, be it the father of Hamlet or one's own father, the borderline becomes a little blurred, and you no longer, when you don't have the strength, physical or mentally, you can't control those very powerful feelings that you've unleashed in yourself. And I'm saying this fully aware of the fact that most actors manage to do it very successfully, and I made a mistake with that part. And part of the mistake, I think, for me, in that case, was to really indulge in somebody else's ambition for me. I never really had an ambition to be a classical actor. I had a nose, which people like to dress up and, you know, move around the stage. Whatever the circumstances, it was a mistake for me to attempt this hubris in a stage like the Olivier Theatre.
Yes.
Which some people believe that Olivier designed to destroy every subsequent generation of actors that came after him.
But you walked off the stage and you didn't go back on again. You've not been back on
No, they
since.
tried to force me back on, but I had the strength of 10 men at that time.
Really?
And quite honestly, again, you know, I think it's been misleadingly described, this incident, in as far as I was tremendously relieved that the experience had come to an end. I knew that it was time for it to stop. It was an absolute certainty I had in that moment. And as much as it cost a lot of my colleagues, and I bitterly regret the difficulty it caused them in that moment, I felt like I had no choice but to stop doing what I was doing. Enough was enough.
There are all kinds of stories about you. I mean, when you did, for instance, My Left Foot, you played the paraplegic Christy Brown there, about the way you approached that you went around the set in a wheelchair, you had to be carried on the set from wherever you went, that when you did In the Name of the Father, that you actually played the prisoner, the IRA prisoner, that you were you slept in a police cell for 3 nights, sleepless nights, with guards waking you up, throwing water over you. I mean, is this the sort of thing you object to? But is it true?
No, I'm not bothered by that. That's harmless.
That's what happens, is it? That's what you do. That's the way you do it.
Well, put it this way. I mean, the work that I do, which isn't work, I never probably did a day's work in my life. I play. That's what I do. You know, when I go to work, I go to play. I play a game, and that's what it is. And I see it as a game, and I think most of the people I work with see it as a game, even if it sometimes drives you half round the twist playing it. But, you know, that game involves, say, you know, the power of self-delusion. I mean, like, I suppose at the center of it, I have to try and kid myself that I'm living a life that isn't mine.
Right.
Because if I can't do that, there's no hope I'm going to kid anybody else.
The question then is that, I mean, what's the price you pay for that? I mean, how long does it inhabit you afterwards?
Well, I think it's almost the other way around. It's almost that you just, you know, you unleash a curiosity for something, a whole way of life. And I mean, the thing that I've been least interested about myself, I suppose, in my life is the fact that I'm a middle-class Englishman. So I've tended to be fascinated by lives that appear mysterious to me and
yes.
exotic in some way, and I've always been drawn towards those.
Yes. But you make it sound as if it's a job again without joy. The Jameson.
Well, that's the problem. You see, the problem is that whenever you talk about it, you know, you let people talk on your behalf. That doesn't work. But you try and demystify it, and that doesn't work either because there is no way of describing it. You shouldn't even have to try and describe it. I mean, it's irrelevant in a way because nothing that you can say is going to make that piece of work better or worse than it is.
But I mean, what about that famous remark of Olivier to Dustin Hoffman? You know, why don't you try acting?
Well,
I
I
mean,
love that remark because to me, it says the opposite of what it seems to say. To me, it says that maybe Olivier in that moment revealed that he understood less about working in films than Dustin Hoffman did. I know that's a sacrilegious thing to say almost.
Not at all.
But,
I mean, and Hoffman was by far the more experienced film actor, but of course that's true.
And quite honestly, you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, I sort of was going to get around to say that in this job I do, I put on somebody else's clothes. I try and convince myself I'm living a life that isn't mine. I live in a house that doesn't belong to me. I have thoughts and feelings that aren't mine for a period of maybe 6 months. I work with a group of complete strangers who all believe passionately in this thing that may turn out to be a piece of crap. We don't know. And at the end of it all, what preparation, even if I did cartwheels with a bunch of daffodils stuck up my jacksie, like, what could be more bizarre than the thing itself? I mean, any preparation, I don't care what anybody else does, as long as they're doing what they need to do to get, if Olivier needed to believe that it's keep the thing at bay, and so be it. It worked well for him.
You
You should play Castro. I've been sitting here looking at your profile. You look just like a young Castro. Which is a compliment.
Oh, God,
no, he's some lad.
Yeah. Well, all the best with Ballad of Jack and Rose, and I hope that it does well for you.
I'm sorry I haven't clarified everything.
No, I found it fascinating, actually. I mean, the mystery's intact. You needn't worry.
I'm not trying to do that. It's just, you know what I'm saying.
I know. Daniel, thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.